Wardrobe for the Bass Tour Anglers podcast provided by Koppel Outfitters. Go have an adventure. Visit them online at www.koppeloutfitters.com and on social media at Koppel Outfitters.
Young man, take a look at me now.
Well, hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for being with us. I had an opportunity to go fishing with Parker Wright. He's a Southern California pro and he's a guide, does a great job. And pretty much anytime I get a chance to go with Parker, I drop everything I'm doing and I go because it's always a great learning opportunity when you're out there on the water fishing with him. So this was a mid-September Sunday. We went out to Lake Paris. The fish were in a schooling mood, kind of a late summer, early fall kind of pattern, and we wanted to see if we could get on these fish. Now, Parker's pretty dialed in to most of the lakes around Southern California, and he had us. He told me we were going to be fishing finesse topwater. Now that right there, finesse topwater, doesn't sound like anything that I've done before. Topwater, it's a power technique. Familiar with topwater. Finesse, light line tackle, I'm familiar with that. But put the two together, finesse topwater, that seems kind of foreign. Well, turns out that it was a very effective way to fish. Small, tiny little topwater baits. Light line, spinning tackle, and just a lot of fun. We threw a number of different topwater type baits at them and had a great time. Now, one thing I will tell you about this trip is that just because these fish were up schooling didn't make it easy for us to catch them, because really they would be super active. I know you've seen this before. The fish are active up on the surface, and that's where they're active. When they are done eating, they go down, and at Lake Paris, going down means down into the brush. There's a lot of flooded brush at Lake Paris, and these fish would get down inside that. They're very difficult to catch when they're down in the brush, down in that 15, 18, 20 foot of water with just a heavy flooded forest is what it is. They're very tough to catch when they're down there, and so you have to wait until they come up to feed. Now, what was interesting about this trip was watching what would set these fish off. In many of the cases, it was the birds. When birds would start feeding on shad, they would push the shad up into the brush lines, and that would activate the fish from deeper water to come up and feed. It was pretty amazing to watch. Anyway, hope you enjoy this. This is one of my first attempts at documenting a day of fishing. I'm trying to get better at it, and we'll see how this turns out.
Change. It's inevitable. To improve, you must adapt. The sport is evolving. A paradigm shift is a fundamental change of basic concepts. Don't get left behind. Introducing Paradigm. Paradigm Reels by Duckett Fishing. Pro-driven.
Yeah. So I met Parker at Lake Paris early on a Sunday morning, and he had told me that there were some fish, quite a few fish actually schooling on shad. And this was exciting to me because this is a technique that I struggle with. Schooling fish, they look like they're the easiest fish to catch because they're so aggressive, but they are a real struggle. And I look forward to getting out with Parker and seeing how he approach this. You know, that first ride across the lake on a morning of fishing, I think that's the freest I ever feel. Being in a bass boat, throttle down, going as fast as you can. I have yet to find anything in my life that I can put my finger on that provides the same kind of exhilaration, the same kind of free feeling. Now, it's interesting because the fishing that we were going to be doing was fishing topwater, but we were going to be fishing finesse topwater. You see that Parker's fishing a spinning rod, I'm fishing a spinning rod, and we're not throwing the typical big 6 inch long or 5.5 inch long Zara spook or something like that. That might have worked, but we were throwing very, very small tackle, very light tackle. I was throwing my top water on 6 pound test. I had the drag backed way off, and he was fishing it with 10 pound test. And the idea was trying to match the hatch. The bait fish that we were trying to mimic were very small.
And then they were I got a couple and then they were sold out. And I was so bummed because like I was.
If you keep your eye on the screen here, you'll see that there are fish breaking all around us. In fact, Parker is hooked up here. There was a school that was out a little further that came up and started boiling, and when they come up, that's when there's opportunity to catch them.
I'm throwing it on 10 pounds right now. So yeah, it works. What I get? Got myself a large one.
Catch stripers in here?
I've caught one.
I've never caught a striper.
I caught one in the trench on an ice jig, like in the winter time.
Look at those things in the background.
14 pounds. Look at how fat they are here right now, though.
It seems like they always wait for you to be retying or getting another rod ready to go. That's when they come up.
But basically, yeah, you just walk the dog with it. And it's kind of like a tight, super tight, like you have kind of like almost like shake the rod and reel and twist all at the same time. And it kind of, then you can pause, and come after it. Probably should grab some food. Oh, get the hang of it. So yeah, kind of like super slow thing. So it's not like a full top water, it's kind of like goes right underneath if you let it sink.
Baits we were throwing were small, really small, like maybe 2 inch long, and the side to side walking the dog type action is what we were trying to impart on the baits when we were fishing them.
Oh, look at them. Wow, look at that. Inside the brush line.
On the trees right there.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Those almost look like there might be some stripers mixed in with those.
Holy shit. Look at on the backside.
Yeah.
That's another thing about schooling fish. As soon as you make a cast to your right, they come up on your left.
Oh, feeding frenzy. Oh, that was on you, huh?
Yeah. You can imagine. Horny coyote.
Yeah.
You know, all kinds of
Yeah. I was trying to freaking get a coyote that was in our backyard. It was like trying to attack our chickens one time, and I was like, I looked up all like the coyote noises and stuff. It was crazy. It didn't work, but I don't think I was probably playing it.
Now, the fish that we were going after were obviously we could see them on the surface when they would come up, but when they were not on the surface, they went deep down into the 16, 18 foot range, maybe even 20 foot range, and they would get in the sticks. At Lake Paris, the bottom is just covered in a forest of brush, and they would stay down there until the bait fish got pushed up on these high points, and that's when the fish would come up out of the brush, get up in these high points in these sticks, and it was absolutely on like crazy. And then just as soon as it started, the bait would disperse it'd move back out and it would suspend, and the fish would go back down to the brush. Really tough to catch those fish when they're in that deep brush like that. You might think throw a drop shot, but you throw a drop shot down there and you're going to get hung up. You're going to lose them.
There's a big one in my neighborhood.
Oh my God. Dude, I keep missing it.
So that's the top of a hump right there. That brush comes up out of the water. On the side that we are on the boat is probably in about 16 feet. It's a kind of a big hole or trough there, kind of a low point. And on the outside, it falls off into 20, 25, and even deeper than that.
Yeah. That's a nice one.
Water ball.
I switched over to throwing. Besides the topwater bait, I also threw a fluke with an exposed hook, and that's effective. That was really effective for me.
There's no rabbits in our neighborhood either. There we go. Great hook set.
Feel solid? That's a start.
That's the kind of fish I catch.
That's a warm-up fish.
That's a warm-up.
You know, it took a lot of different things. Sometimes the birds would come in and push the shad up towards the brush. Birds would be diving on them out in the open water, and that would push the shad up into the brush. And as soon as the shad came up into the brush, up on these high points, the fish would come up and we get a big boil going again. It was really interesting how the birds and the bass kind of played off each other. The birds would get these frenzies started by pushing the bait up into the bushes, and the bass would come up and start attacking.
Yeah, I got frustrated last time because we lost like, these are the only two I have because we lost like 6 of them last time. You'd catch like a 4-pounder and he'd just go straight into the trees and you'd be like, nothing you could do. Dude, if we could somehow get a bait in there. Do you have anything to throw in there?
Yep, I do.
Again, all that brush you can see in the water right there is a high point.
Throw your frog in there. Why not? That's where they're going nuts.
On the outside of that hump, it falls off into about 25 feet of water. Where our boat was, on the inside of the hump, was about 16 to 18 feet.
Get him?
Gotta get you in and out. Yeah, he boiled on.
Fuck yeah. It works.
It's like my first vlog fish of the day. I always swing on the side. I gotta wait till I feel the pole.
You're not the only one.
Yeah, but I tell myself.
Again, all it took was something to push that bait up into the brush and the high point. The fish would come up and it would be back on again. Look at that. I had some success throwing a fluke with an open hook on it to some of these fish. Real subtle. It's an excellent technique, though.
Is that you?
That's a little guy right in front of me.
I mean, this is finesse topwater fishing.
I hope he boiled on it.
There
we go.
Nice. Nice one. Bad. Yeah.
That is a.
Oh. I will take those all freaking day.
Yeah, mine's sorry. What is the water temperature?
It said 84 the other day, but I don't know if I believe it. Does it feel like it?
Back on the outside of this brush pile, again, the fish are out on the outside of this in deep water, probably 20, 25 feet in the brush. You can see those birds in the background. Those birds start pushing the bait in, and it's almost as soon as those birds chase the bait swims up into the brush, and these fish come up out of the deeper water up to the top of this high point, and it just turns on like that, and it'll stay on for a minute or two, and then everything will calm down, and they'll go back down to that deeper water. They're very hard to catch in that deep water because they're down in that really deep stuff.
There you go.
Look at that.
Oh, wow.
Definitely a lot of frightened bait up here. Nervous bait. Oh, there we go.
Oh, it's the bite.
Caught him yawning.
Get a double. Get a double. Get a double.
Cutters or the pliers?
I got it. Back one left.
So really fished a combination of three baits all day. Fished this very small 2-inch finesse topwater bait. Kind of walked the dog with it through a open hook fluke swim bait, and just kind of dead sticked it and twitched it from here and there. I also fished a spitting image, the small size spitting image topwater bait. It makes a lot of noise, and it's a bait I like to fish when fish are schooling. But here you go. The bait moves up into the shallows, fish come up out of the deep, and that's when you can get them.
Up out of that tree, dude.
Yep.
No, he just got me stuck in the tree immediately.
I think when bass are up chasing shad on the surface, it is one of the most exciting times of any kind of fishing, because you can see that the fish are out there. You can see that they're aggressive. You know that they're going to eat if you can just put your bait in the right spot. When one is up and fired up like that, you know you're going to get slammed. It's so exciting, so much fun.
Hooked him with the net.
Yeah. Some pliers.
Again, these fish are really hard to catch because when they were not up on the surface schooling, they were down deep, buried in the brush, in deeper water. Not too many things you can drop into that brush to get them to come out without getting snagged. I mean, you could drop shot, you could probably shake a worm, but you would be probably losing a lot of baits doing that. But when they come up, when either the birds push them up into the brush, push the bait up into the brush, or when the bait swims up into the brush on its own and they come up, it gets very exciting for brief moments of time. Sometimes just having the bait ready to go is better than actually making a cast and covering water, because as soon as you cast, as I said, as soon as you cast left, they're going to come up on your right. As soon as you cast on the outside of the brush line, they're going to come up on the inside of the brush line. You see all those birds swimming around out there? Those birds have a lot to do with the fish becoming activated, because when those birds start diving on the bait moves up to the top of that hump into the brush to try to avoid the birds. And when the bait gets up there in that brush line, that's when the fish come out of the deeper water and they get up and start slamming them. The whole thing gets ignited. See the grebe in the background there? There are several of those kinds of birds. There's another one there. Several of those birds that would get things stirred up from time to time. Very symbiotic.
There's a pack of them right there. I got the little guy. Everybody's not kind of keep it working.
I really like fishing that fluke. That it's unweighted. It's got just a single hook that is fished exposed. I really like fishing that bait on that 7-foot ducket. I just have so much control over it. It's really a great rod and reel with the Paradigm reel set up to fish that fluke. You can cast it a mile and work it as slowly as you want. Look at all the bait in the water.
This cormorant working over here. That's the wrong kind of bird, isn't it? Ooh. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
That's a big one, dude. That's a giant one. I'll back you up. Oh, you saw there's another one, big one.
He's still, there's another one fighting him for it.
There is, huh?
Yeah. There is one with him still.
Yeah, I saw.
Get the net. Oh.
There is, huh?
Yeah. There is one with him.
I saw him.
Heck yeah. Oh man. That's a 4, right? Oh yeah. I don't want to get. I don't want to get. Right?
Yeah.
They weren't all small fish that were out there too. There were a lot of schooling sized fish, but this one pushed 5 pounds on the scale, just under 5 pounds. Good fish.
When he hit it, I was like, oh, that's not a suicide.
I'm up for exploring if you want to.
Funny?
Trying to get these fish to bite on something when they were down in the deep water, tough. Threw a swim jig and kind of just crawled it through the sticks, but they would not come up and bite that, or they would not eat that. They were going to eat when they were hot, but when they were down in the brush, we couldn't figure anything out to get them out of that.
Probably.
Well, that will do it for this episode. We caught them pretty well on basically three different baits. We threw a small 2-inch topwater bait, really super finesse on light line. We caught them on flukes with an open hook, really good technique, real subtle. Imagine fishing a surface presentation that is super finesse and stealth. That's what that fluke would be. And then also got them on a spit nibbage topwater bait, and it was a lot of fun. It wasn't a fish every minute. It was a lot of waiting for the fish to come up out of the brush to bite. But again, I want to emphasize really interesting relationship between the birds and the fish. The shad would suspend out over deep water, and sometimes the fish would come up on them, but for the most part, the fish would just stay low, and then the birds would start to engage the shad, and the shad would move into the cover to get protected from the birds. Well, when they would move into the cover, they'd move up onto these humps that had brush on them. That's when the fish would come up, and it was really, you could call it. You could be sitting there, the water would be dead calm and not see anything at all, and then you'd see the birds start to come, and you'd know it was about to go down, and sure enough, it would. The birds would move the bait into the brush, the bass would come up, and you'd get a good flurry for a minute or two, and then they'd go right back down. So a lot of times it wasn't just casting. A lot of times it was being ready to cast that got these fish for you. Anyway, I hope that was good. I hope you enjoyed that. Like I said, this is one of my first attempts at documenting a fishing trip. I'd love to hear your comments. Let me know what you want to see. Let me know what you don't want to see. And if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to our channel. Till next time, folks, we will talk to you again real soon.